We're the Wests. We're the Wests.
Keenan, Johnny, Kai, Kelsey Cohen. Keenan, Johnny, Kai, Kelsey Cohen. And we're reclaiming our identity.
Hey, we are back. We are the Wests with Reclaiming Our Identity. And if you have seen any of our other videos, especially if you have seen more than 3, we can call you fam. So hey fam, we want you to listen to what we have to say today as far as our 10 dislikes. We posted a video with our 10 likes from Tanzania. But you know what? Before we do that, there were some that we realized that we did not include, like the bajaji.
Bajaji, the transportation there in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam specifically, the bajaji, and we'll have a video that will have some of our ride in the bajaji, and so we enjoyed that, especially because of it was so cheap.
Yeah, tell them what it is.
It was so cheap. It's a 3-wheeler.
This is bajaji, everybody. All right, man, y'all be safe, all right?
Kind of like car type
motor vehicle
type
if
thing.
you're familiar with the tuk-tuk in Thailand, it's something like that, a really small motor car that only at the max 4 people can fit in.
Yeah. It's the driver and then 2 to maybe 3 people that can be seated
and
behind them.
It's extremely inexpensive to travel in the bajaji. So we only took it for really short distances because of the fact it's so small. We wanted to make sure we were safe.
Yeah, and
on those roads.
That was more because we had so many people with us. It was 6 of us, and so we took it from Slipway Beach to Cocoa Beach and back.
So in comparison, the cost of an Uber and the cost of a bajaji was what?
So if an Uber was, and I mentioned in a previous video that an Uber, the most we spent on an Uber was probably about $6 or $7 US on an Uber, and that is going on the other side of town. I mean, I'm talking about 10, 12, 15 miles away. Excuse me, you're going, and so in a bajaji, we only went from Slipway to Cocoa Beach and vice versa, and
about
it was
3 miles maybe.
I don't even know if it was that. And it was because we paid, I paid like
3,000.
Yeah, so it was maybe about $1.
Yeah, because
it's 2,300 Tanzania shillings for every $1.
and we paid 3,000
Tanzania shillings
for a one-way trip.
Yeah, so it was about $1, and it was a couple miles to get there.
So you can get around town really, really cheap. They also we saw people sitting on the back of other people's motorcycles.
Yeah, so that's a very
even
less expensive transportation, and you can get everywhere a whole lot faster on those because they go
zipping in and out of all of that traffic that there is. So that was one thing we forgot to add in our likes, and another was you put it in the cost of living, the clothing expense, or being able to shop for clothing. But I wanted to make it a like the fact that we were able to have custom designed outfits tailored. So not so much the cost of it, but the actual capability of being able to. We came across a woman at a booth in a Maasai market at Slipway Beach who had shelves full of fabric. You pick your fabric pattern, texture, what have you, and I was able to basically design a dress that I wanted. I told her the kind of sleeves I wanted, how I wanted the bodice, how I wanted the neckline, how I wanted the hemline. I designed a dress right then and there. We did the same for both of our girls. The girls described what they wanted, how they wanted their dresses to be made, And this was done on a Wednesday?
No, it was done on Thursday.
On a Thursday, okay? All 5 of us in my family had something made, and my husband told you he had
I had two. So
pants.
Right, so I had 2 pair of pants. Cohen had our son had a pair of pants. So those 3 plus theirs, so 6. No, and then my mother had
2 dresses
two
made.
dresses
and
made.
She made an extra. So my other like that I forgot to include was the fact that in Tanzania, you can have a seamstress or tailor make you a custom tailored. She measured my body and made it just for me. Same for the girls and for my husband and our son. Custom tailored clothing, very inexpensively and in a short period of time, because we had that done on Thursday, and she brought our clothes to us
our apartment
on Saturday night because we were leaving 3 a.m. Sunday morning.
Yes.
Where did they do that at?
Yeah, and the thing is, because what happened is, I had mentioned that I was, I wanted to get, I wanted to get some pants. I think that's what it was. I was trying to find some place to get some pants, and so I had kind of given up because, as a matter of fact, because we asked the guy in the Uber about where to get some, custom made, and he, gave me contact information for a guy. He called the guy. The guy never got in contact with me, and I think it was either the next day was when we went to Slipway, and you guys were at Cocoa Beach. Me and my mother were at Slipway at the Maasai Market, and so they were trying to ask, do you want to get something? And I was, because we had been there before, I'd already kind of, gotten what I needed or whatever. And I said, really, I just want some pants, some nice pants, whatever. And so she said, hey, this
need to
other
go down there.
Yeah, so one of the other ladies in the other booths or whatever, she actually did that. So it was great. It was great. Unfortunately, because so that lady made, so it was 2 different ladies. One of them made my pants and Cohen's pants, and the other one, she made all of you all's dresses. The lady who made my pants and Cohen's pants made them too short, which is unfortunate because, because we had to leave, I was just hoping that it wasn't, that they weren't going to be, they were going to be right. But because we had to leave, we just didn't have time to get them fixed again. So, but anyway.
Another thing I noticed that I liked was, I think it's good to kind of give all the positives because we're going to go in on the negatives, that they were eco-friendly. I heard public service announcements about I think it was when we were in the airport, that they did not manufacture or allow or accept plastic bags. Everywhere we went, there were recycled bags. So you don't have plastic just everywhere. And it may be because they don't drink the tap water. So they know that they are going to have a lot of plastic bottles circulating because all of the water that is to be consumed has to be bottled. So that was something else that was nice. Like Costa Rica is extremely eco-friendly also as a country, and it put me in mind of Costa Rica, although Costa Rica's on a whole nother level with their greenness. But yeah. So we just want to take you all along our journey with us as we go through the remainder of all of these stories that we have to tell, the multitude of pictures that we still haven't shown, the other videos that still have to be uploaded. We know that a lot of Blacks, maybe even non-Blacks as well, are curious about Africa because it's not somewhere you hear a lot of your inner circle, friends and family, people you work with going often. So since people, at least in our world, aren't visiting Africa, at least not often, and you're not interacting with them, we know that it's probably not a trip that a lot of people are likely to take, at least in the very, very near future. So since we have gone, we just want to take you all along with us and give you all the insights that we have, let you see it through our eyes and through our stories, and expose you to Tanzania and in the future our other African destinations and the rest of our story. by sharing these things with you. So that's why we're bringing you these dislikes. It makes me think of a song. This is a "Come along, my friend, come along." You ever heard the song?
No.
Get aboard and ride
No,
this
never heard that
train.
song.
Nothing on this train. There's a song for everything. I can think of a song for everything.
So as she was mentioning, come along our journey, as we really, and we mentioned in another video, as we are looking for that place that, you know, we will someday call home.
As we're reclaiming our identity.
As we are reclaiming our identity. But you showed a shirt that says identity theft.
Identity theft.
Right. Identity theft is my book. So if you don't know anything about identity theft and reclaim our identity, my identity, look at the video Why Africa. But anyway, so we're talking about our 10 dislikes. Our 10 dislikes.
Oh, can we do a disclaimer too? Because we don't want to be disrespectful or insensitive or inconsiderate to the feelings of our Tanzanian brothers and sisters, those who may have repatriated there, those who are natives. This is just our experience. This is what we went through when we were there, and things that we found to be difficult, challenging, unpleasant,
or we just didn't like.
That we just didn't like. It's just, so, it's just we're just being honest about.
Yeah, and it would be the
good,
same
the bad,
thing.
and the ugly. We did like.
And it would be the same thing if if we went to some other country, if somebody came to America, things that you like, things that you dislike. And when we go to these other countries, it's going to be the same thing. When we go to Ghana later on, we're going to have 10 likes and 10 dislikes. And so there'll be reasons why, A, we got to move here. And then other reasons why, nah, we shouldn't move here.
It's not going to work.
Right. So our first dislike is the infrastructure / roads.
Lack thereof. We will proceed that by saying.
Yeah, it was. Now the thing is, I know that there are some infrastructure problems in, many of the countries in Africa, and I've actually seen other videos where they talk about how, and these are people from Africa, different countries in Africa, and they mention how, if you find good roads in Africa, in different places, then that's a good thing.
Because be surprised,
right? That you'll be, because you don't typically see good roads in Africa. Now I know that they exist because when we went to Kenya, we saw good roads. But I think one of the challenges with Tanzania was that we just didn't see a lot of good roads. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like there were more unpaved roads than paved roads. Right, and it may be different in when you get to some of the other cities, whatever. We were specifically in Dar Es Salaam.
Right, I was gonna say, mind you, we were only in Dar es Salaam too, so it could be. So we should say our 10 dislikes about Dar es Salaam and not Tanzania, because it's a huge country.
Yes.
We didn't go to Kilimanjaro. We didn't go to Lake Victoria.
We didn't go to Arusha. Mm-hmm. Different places. So
and since Arusha is the capital city,
no. Dodoma.
Oh yeah, Dodoma.
Dodoma. I think it's Dodoma.
Dodoma. Yeah, it is.
Is the capital city.
It may be very different.
Right.
So we will specify this pertaining to Dar es Salaam.
So the first thing was infrastructure / roads. The next thing is traffic.
Yes. And I think they go hand in hand because of the lack of infrastructure and city planning, i.e. street signs, street lights, stop signs, yield signs, traffic, speed signs, things of that nature not being prevalent there. You get in where you fit in, you drive however you want to drive, unless there's a police standing around, because we didn't see police cars. We saw them standing, and we knew then that the police must be around, because the drivers would go extremely slow as to not get a ticket. But the traffic is bananas. There's some things feeding into that we read or heard about. The fact that there are a lot of small cars and not a lot of huge family cars. There are big family cars.
So that means there are more
big
cars on the
SUVs,
road.
But so in order to get that population around, everybody's got to have their own vehicle, and only a few people can fit in them, which puts more cars on the road, which also does more damage to the roads because there's more weight and wear and tear and usage of the thoroughfares and the roadways that beats the roads. And there are potholes. I mean, I don't know, their shocks and struts must be hurting badly. They probably need to get those things repaired very frequently because there were some really big potholes. And I have a video that I did of us riding that usually we just up and down and the kids liked it. But the traffic, it was really, and there is a lot of lack of consideration with the driving. They just were gonna go when they felt like going, and they were gonna cut you off or move you over or stop in front of you, whatever the case may be.
It was although the traffic was bad, I think it was worse when we went to Kenya. Kenya
was bad.
Kenya, the traffic, that was off the chain.
And you mean volume-wise congestion?
The volume-wise congestion.
Yeah, there was a lot more volume, but I would say the lack of courtesy in driving was probably about the same.
Probably.
And to the point where we were glad in both places that we didn't rent a vehicle and drive ourselves.
Right.
We wouldn't have been able to get around well anyway because the streets aren't well identified with street signs. What we're used to here seeing, when you're going to come up, you look if that's, if the GPS is taking you to a certain street that has a name, that's what you're looking for. But they seem to just be familiar with the streets. I don't know, based on the name of them from a map, maybe is what I thought. I don't know how they know what the street, because there are no house numbers.
It's
coordinates?
No, landmarks.
Oh yeah, okay.
Landmarks. So if
but they would call streets by name too. They would say street names sometimes.
Oh,
maybe
I'm sure maybe some of them probably had some of them had street names, but then others were just just dealing with landmarks. And so that'll take us to our fourth thing, which is the no addresses.
We should be on 3.
No, that was 3.
No,
I'm sorry.
Traffic.
Yeah, we're on traffic. So that'll take us to number 3, which will be no addresses. So no addresses. So you didn't find, it was the GPS, like for instance, it was hard for some of the Uber drivers to find,
Yeah, I remember when the woman who made our clothing wanted to make sure she understood where to bring them. She said, pull it up. I need to see it where it is on the map so I can take a picture of that on my phone. See which street crossings were, and like you said, I guess landmarks or what have you, because you couldn't just say, oh, it's 2011 Belmont Street, or what have you, and then they get there.
No, but see, that's the thing I didn't understand, because like we put it in, because it was 67 Wakalima Road. And so,
that's the point I'm making. They had street names, but you didn't see them.
Right, you didn't see Wakalima. But people just knew where things were sometimes just by the landmarks, especially those who didn't drive. Right. Yeah. So that's number 3, lack of addresses, physical addresses on the buildings. And then number 4, it was the consideration of the people. People being, it didn't seem like everybody was considerate of everybody else.
So some scenarios that speak to that would be when we were boarding or preparing to board on the ferry
to go to
from
Zanzibar.
Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar. And it really made, now, of course, we were probably more sensitive to it because of COVID. And there was no social distancing. There was no personal space allowment. There was no consideration for the number of people in a square footage of space, so mass gatherings, that was not something that was observed there. And so as you're getting onto the ferry, you know, people just all close and they're moving, they're going to get their seats, and if you're in the way, just brush past you, move you over, get through you, whatever the case may be. I don't know that I ever heard excuse me in English or Swahili. Not that I would recognize it in Swahili, but it, you know, you can kind of tell what people are saying by how they say it. None of that. And the kids were like, "Oh, so they're pushing me and they're moving me." And so we felt that a lot then, more so than any other time, I think, when we're getting on and off the ferry.
Yeah, I think there was and when we got off the ferry, when we were going through customs in Zanzibar
at the port
in Zanzibar, because that was
I mean, they're like in a mad rush to get off that boat and get wherever they're going. Forget about you. You just got to, you don't have to get rolled over.
You got to get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
Get in where you fit in. So that's number 4. Number 5 is the lack of customer service. And that was especially like going to, it was probably more specifically when we went to restaurants. And that was, to be honest, there were 2 situations that really stuck out. And it was when we went to 2 different restaurants. Now, this is nothing against any ethnic group, but when we went to the Red Onion, which was, and you'll see in one of the previous videos, the best food that I had in Dar Es Salaam.
I had so much good food, I can't even say that.
Veggie Manchurian.
It was one of my favorites.
That veggie Manchurian was great. But what happened is, we went, we have a table of 6, party of 6, and we sit down, we order, and, we're waiting for our food. An Indian, group comes in. It's about 3 of them, about 3 of them. And the Red Onion was owned by an Indian, I guess family, Indian establishment. And they came in after we did, ordered after we did, got their food before we did.
And not just a few minutes before. It was a good while before. They were
sure
well
was.
Into their meal before we got
before we got our food. And so it just felt like,
because I remember thinking, I wonder, they must have called that order in and had it,
listen,
ready for them before.
But then it seemed like they also knew the owner. And so that was one situation. But then it happened again at another Indian restaurant. And that's where we were on in Zanzibar, in Stone Town.
Oh yeah, that one was.
And I can't remember the name of that restaurant.
Neither can I.
But so we went there, and same thing happened. Table of party of 6. We're sitting there. We order our food, and we're waiting for our food. Somebody comes in a while after we have gotten there and ordered our food. They get their food, a while before we get ours. And, now we understand that, sometimes some things take a little bit longer to cook and things like that. But it just, I don't know, it just seemed, I don't know. It just,
it seemed a little shady.
A little shady.
Like there was not just favorite, and not just a friend's hookup. It felt more than that. But we mentioned it, I think, to either Seema or Bupe, and didn't they say that that's common?
I don't remember. What I do know is this. The food was good at Red Onion, but the customer service was horrible. And because of that...
The customer service?
No, what I mean is just the waiter was phenomenal. He was great. He was a Tanzanian gentleman. But because of that, the whole situation,
wait
time, and everything, we didn't go back, and the food was good. But, as was mentioned in another previous video, we just don't, we're not going to take our business to an establishment where we don't feel we are
treated equally. Yes.
So,
especially when we go back to the motherland and we feel like that's, you go with a certain expectation. Now, maybe that's an unfair expectation, unrealistic and unreasonable. I will take that if that is the case. And I also want to do a video where we talk about our different surprises, because that was one thing that surprised me that I should have probably prepared myself for. And then my response to it, my feeling of indignation surprised me as well. So we'll talk about some surprises. But yeah, I'm going where I think I'm going to be able to hold my head up high with all my sisters and brothers and kings and queens of Africa, and be treated the same, and my children, feel like, oh my goodness, this is home. But you told her sit at the back of the bus because your food ain't ready yet, because theirs is. I was like,
Now to be clear, it was not us telling us to sit in the back of the bus or sit in the back of the restaurant.
That's a metaphor.
Right. It was somebody else telling us,
In essence, by the way,
right,
we were
when
served.
we went to these two Indian restaurants. So yeah, it was unfortunate. So the next thing, the beaches.
Yeah, that was a disappointment. That I envisioned fluffy, soft, white sand beaches to be able to go and, sit and lay our towel down, and the kids run and play in the water and swim and what have you. But the public beach, Cocoa Beach, and after we went, we were told that's not the cleanest beach. There was some debris there, and then not even that so much. It was just that I explained in another video that the times that we went, we found out were not ideal times. They were more in the middle of the day, like when you would typically go to the beach, for us, either in the Caribbean or in Florida or what have you, go around 12, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or what have you. But the tide was back so far that really all you saw was coral, hard rocks, and seaweed. And then you would wade in. The water was beautiful and clear, but the floor of the ocean was not nice and soft. And so we couldn't go and just enjoy ourselves having a nice beach day. Had we gone to a resort area or in front of a hotel where they had purchased land on one of the spaces where the soft, nice beach, areas
Yeah,
where
it would have been.
we would have had a different experience. But
Right.
we went to public areas, except for when we went to Prison Island, and the beach on Prison Island. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It would have been the perfect opportunity to swim, and we had planned to, but the sea urchins had a different plan. They decided they were going to hang close to the beach that day at that time when we finished touring Prison Island, and they told us it wasn't going to be safe to swim. So they do have beautiful beaches. It's just that our timing wasn't right. So that was a dislike, because I just thought it was going to be regular, nice, soft, pretty beach everywhere.
Number 6, the lack of COVID restrictions. So, there were very, very few people who were wearing masks. To be honest, the only time we really saw people wearing masks were when we were at the hospital getting our COVID test to come back to the States.
Yeah. Can't say that I saw them before then. Maybe once or twice, and of course, blue paper sometimes.
So we saw them, but it was
Sometimes
like very
sporadic.
few, sporadic. But what's interesting is that at the hospital, most of the people, the hospital wore them. Most of the patients, most of the people who had come to the hospital for whatever reason, wore the masks.
But like I said, no social distancing enforced. No limitation on the size of groups in a particular capacity of space. And apparently the lack of updated, current, factual, evidence-based data and information that has been provided to the public with regard to the high contagiousness of COVID-19 and the effectiveness of the health precautions and measures that we are taking here and in other countries, that information apparently was misconveyed or not updated. And I say that because when we were sitting outside in the waiting area of the hospital, and I'll have to go back onto a customer service point with that too. When we're sitting in the waiting area, they had a monitor displaying a video where they reminded people of proper hand washing techniques, which was thorough. Now, remember, I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I work in a geriatric setting. So I'm working in a setting where the most vulnerable of the population are when it comes to COVID-19. So I had to be on my P's and Q's, and I've been hearing these things, and I'm trained for all this stuff. And so I'm listening to the video, and they were talking about how to properly put on a mask, and she went through the technique for that correctly. And this was, I think it was sponsored by the CDC. But the longer I listened to it, and they explained, and I'm not going to get this right verbatim, but basically it was explained that you were better off not wearing a mask unless you knew for a fact that you were COVID. Infected or you were sick with the symptoms. If you wore it and you did not have a positive COVID test, you were not infected, and you didn't have the symptoms, it said in so many words, you were probably going to make yourself sick by putting it on. So don't wear it. You only need to wear it if you have the symptoms, you feel like you're sick, or you have already been tested positive, and that is not accurate. So I don't know if they had old information that didn't update, from when we really didn't know we even in the States didn't know a whole lot about it, of course, when it came out, and how effective masks were or ineffective they were. No, there was a time when the information was changing so frequently, and maybe that video just didn't update. But I believe that the general population was carrying themselves based on that incorrect information, and that's why the majority of them didn't wear masks, or they just didn't realize how effective that masks can be in preventing the disease. So, but it was scary because we have our children there, and you're not seeing anybody seem to be concerned about it. The market, like we said, packed and crazy, so busy and packed and crazy that they say don't take your children unless you go on a Sunday. So that's how many people are moving around. It's a heavily populated city, and I do realize that the economy could not have withstood them shutting down because everybody has to work every day to eat, and so I get that, but you didn't see a whole lot of signs telling people to keep your distance, or we're only allowing 4 people in this space at a certain time because it's so small. None of that. It was like COVID didn't exist except for the few people you may have seen with a mask. So that was very concerning and very much a dislike.
So lack of COVID restrictions. Our next dislike is that it was not what we would have expected in regards to being updated. It didn't seem the at least Dar Es Salaam, the portions where we were, it was not updated. It didn't seem very modern.
Or as if it had progressed. Some of the buildings seemed that they, were pretty much the same from the 70s or 80s, structurally and aesthetically, it just kind of seemed a little outdated in some parts of the city. So, and overall, it just wasn't extremely progressive.
Now, granted, I had heard that when Magufuli came in, he was, from my understanding, was starting to make some of those changes. Now, I don't know, what changes are being made, but I did hear that when he came in, he was, he was starting to make some of those changes, and he was, rooting out some of the corruption and different things like that in the country, to bring about some of those changes so that, the city, that the country could progress. And so, that's the caveat, even though it wasn't, updated as we would, now to be clear, it's not that we expected, well, I know I didn't expect, it to be
state of the art, everything,
now, I mean, we that's not the, so, we don't want anybody to think that, that's what we are.
Just so high and mighty and
no, we know for the most part, some of the things we're going to get when we go to Africa, and, we're cool with that. I mean, because I still want to move to Africa, So that's not you, but you want to see.
We thought it was a little bit
more progressive,
farther along than it is.
Right.
And part of that is, I'm sorry.
And you want to see progression. You know, okay, it doesn't. We're not expecting it to be, you know, at a 10, but you know, you're trying to get to a 10.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to the hospital situation and kind of tie this in as well with the progression and the modernization that we didn't see. The check-in process for our COVID tests, it had a lot of steps and it could have been streamlined a little bit better. You had to register online, but you have to register with the Department of Health first, pay that fee.
Oh, yes.
Then you have to register specifically with the clinic or hospital where you are going to give your sample for testing. And we went through that, and it was frustrating and stressful to go through that process of getting you registered online. You and Mom, you all.
We register online. We don't register. We register online for the place that we're going to, and then you have to go to a bank and pay the fee. You got to get the receipt from the bank. I mean, you know, the receipt or whatever, right? Then you got to take all of that information to the hospital, wherever it is you're getting the COVID test. So it was a
lot of steps when it didn't have to be at you. You could just, you know, go online, put in your information. They have it when you get there because you set an appointment. We were told to set an appointment. And so I'm getting to the customer service aspect that we spoke about earlier in one of our dislikes. So are you saying, because my husband dealt with the majority of all of the logistics and the business and
the money transaction.
The administrative type things. So when we got to the hospital and we were waiting behind and you went to the young lady, that was the first time at the hospital had our information and she had to give it to the young man who took our sample?
Right.
Okay, so then that explains it, because when we did that and we waited after we set our appointment, and she tells us, okay, go ahead to next door, and that's where you're going to do your test and give your sample. So we go over, we're ready to do it, and he says, come back in an hour, a whole hour. Come back in an hour, because I got to fill out the paperwork. And I was like, what? Did he say fill out the paperwork? I thought we had registered online, so that's what took me aback. I thought that you had put in all that. I'm like, does it take you an hour to fill out the paperwork? Customer service issue, modernization issue. If it had been done online, it would have. And then Bupe told us at the airport, when we had to print up our documents, she was like, you got to be a little patient with us. Everything's not digitized yet. We're not online for everything yet. So just be patient. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was an issue. Not updated. So number 9. The family, the lack of
visible family
unit structures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we didn't see, and my wife pointed this out, didn't see a lot of families together. Now it could have just been, you know, where we were or whatever it may be, but we just didn't see a lot of, you know, husband, wife, kids, you know. We may see a man, you know, a whole bunch of men, you know, a whole bunch of women, you know.
Singularly, individuals just, you know, walking to work or wherever they would be walking, or
and you know what also could have been because they were in school.
The children, I was speaking more to the fact that I didn't see couples together.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you rarely ever saw a couple except for when we were on the ferry to and from Zanzibar, when we saw couples together. And even then you saw a lot of individuals that seem to be either by themselves or, you know, a group of men or a group of women, but not a lot of men and women, and definitely public displays of affection. And I don't mean, you know, going all in. I just mean together. You can look, especially when you're traveling and you're on vacation and there are other people on vacation too, people walking down the street arm in arm or hand in hand or just close to each other or what have you. We didn't see a whole lot of that. We just saw a few couples maybe sitting together at church, and even then I didn't see a lot, because I think there maybe the men were serving and doing something and the women were sitting with the children or what have you. But I just didn't see a lot of cozying up and cuddling and together.
And that wouldn't necessarily be, I mean, it's not necessarily really a dislike, you know, just something that we didn't notice. You know, something that we didn't notice.
Yeah.
Number 10, our last dislike was probably the most challenging of the entire trip.
By far.
And it was the departure process when we got to the airport. So we get to the airport at
we got there an hour early.
No.
An hour early. 2 hours early.
No. We got there 2 hours early. The plane was supposed to leave at 3:55. We got there at basically it was about 1:55. And we get in line. We're standing in line. You know, it's a little line. We're standing in line for a little while. And then after we get up to where we need to be, then they tell us that
it was a long line, it wasn't a little
yes,
line.
I mean, yeah, the long line. And then when we got up front,
and to show her the negative COVID test that, praise the Lord, we had, by God's grace, we made it through the week without getting COVID, with all the people being close to us. He shows her his cell phone.
And the lady says it needs to be printed out. Yeah,
livid.
That's livid is the number. So she said you got to go down the hall, and you gotta basically I had to go down the hall and pay to get it printed out for all 6 of us. So I had to take my email, go down the hall to this little stationary area that they had with somebody who would pull up your information. You give them some, money, and they would print out your COVID test. You had to go get the COVID test, print it out. Then you had to take it,
But we didn't know that. And I went with him because I knew he was going to be so frustrated. It's early in the morning. We saw other people showing their cell phone, and the lady took a picture of their cell phone. But
that was afterwards.
Okay.
That was afterwards.
So you print it up, and then we come back and we get back in line. Like, okay, here's the paper.
You got to go see the doctor. The doctor got to sign off on it.
So we run back there to the little table where the doctor is and have him look at all of them and sign 6
it
papers.
off. We get back in line. We're standing in line. Okay, we get up. Right before we get up front, I'm seeing people showing theirs on their phone. So then we get through there, right?
To go check in our luggage. We haven't even gotten to the
to the desk yet
to
get our tickets.
Turkish Airlines. Yes.
So we get there. We go through that process, get our stuff, whatever. So then we think, okay, checking our baggage. We're getting ready to go.
And we have to show our negative COVID test again.
Show it again, right? So then we come back. We're thinking we're getting ready to go up the steps, whatever. We start going up the steps, and this other guy at another table is calling me, telling me I need to come over there. We need to come over there.
Come back down.
Because we need to show him
our COVID test.
The COVID test.
Then what happened?
So then what happened is we get in the line to, what was this,
we didn't have them because the man that checked
in
at the counter for Turkish Air still had them. So I run back over to the counter. You have our papers, we need our papers. Okay, we get them and we take them and we show them to the other person. And once he saw them, then we can move on up the stairs and go to get in line for the immigration.
Immigration. So we're standing in line for immigration, my Lord. Okay. And now, mind you, we got there 1:55. By the time we get in line for immigration, it's probably about
2:45.
No, it wasn't 2:40. It was past that. Because what happens is, because I remember when we were standing in the line for immigration, and because they board 20 minutes before. And all I remember is this. We are standing in line, and there are other people. It's like 4 different lines. And probably half the people in those lines, at the very least, half the people were getting on the same plane. And the guys and the immigration officers booth it just seemed like they were just taking their sweet time.
Chilling.
And chilling is an understatement.
They were looking at documents.
And we are, and so we just, I mean, time is going by, and everybody, I mean, I'm talking about people are getting, people are up. They're like, I mean,
we need some help.
we, I mean,
miss our flight. Other people.
The flight, I mean,
attention.
yes.
And I saw a woman in a uniform bring 2 ladies up to the front of the line to walk them through. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I said, they must be on our flight. We got to leave too. Let me ask her if she can help us. And I go to her, I say, ma'am, our flight is boarded. It was in the process.
I mean, it was literally in the process of boarding.
Can you help us? Can you move us to the front of the line? Our ticket is for this flight. And she goes, you have your card? We're like, wait, what?
Oh,
we had to go and get immigration cards and fill them out.
Fill out the immigration card.
The same ones we had to fill out when when we arrived to Tanzania, and transfer the information from our passports onto those immigration cards. So my husband starts to move because he's used to taking care of this stuff. I said, no, you stay here. Everybody stay in line. I'll go grab them. So I went and I grabbed a card for each of us, because every individual has to have one to go along with their passport. And the girls were even used to about, give me a pen, because we got to hurry up. We wanted to make sure that we had them completed by the time we moved up to the booth and it was our turn, not knowing we still had 15 more minutes or so.
Basically.
Because they were moving so slow. And then finally, so we're in the process of everybody's filling out their immigration cards, putting their information from the passport on. And I saw the gentleman who checked our luggage in.
Yes.
And I said, sir, can you help us? We're going to miss our flight. They're moving, so we can't move. We haven't moved up. We still have to go through security. We hadn't even been through TSA yet. And not put the luggage on
now,
the
mind you, the plane leaves at 3:55. It's probably, at this time, it's probably about 3:50. Mm-hmm. No, right, because it leaves at 3:55. Mm-hmm. It's probably about 3:50 by now.
You talking about anxiety? I'm pretty even keeled. I'm a pretty mellow person. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. My heart was beating. I was like, Lord, I can get stuck here in Tanzania. We don't have money for another ticket, another night stay. The children are going to be in school. We have this, we had other flights that we would have missed.
All of the above.
I cannot get stuck here. That can't happen. So we need to move this process along. So as he said, do you remember me? I said, yes. He said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go tell them to hold the plane. And then, of course, you're hearing other passengers anxious and asking for help. Please, sir, you're pleading to the immigration agents. Yes. Please, sir, please, hurry, please. You're gonna make.
Yes.
So then they finally open another line, and I sit in one, my husband sit in another, so we could see which one would move fastest. And I came back over to the one he was in, and we finally get up there, and the dude seems so unbothered and so almost intent on being extra chill. Like, I'm not gonna hurry for you. You'll be all right. I'll do it the way I do it, how I do it, when I do it. So we're all ready. Get your mask down. Get ready to, take your picture so he can verify that you are the person on the passport. Get it down. Come on, let. And he'd be like, not you yet. Like, what? Is it my turn? I'm ready to go. So finally, my family, I'm the last one to have my identity verified. My shoes are off and I'm ready to run and get it. They go run up the steps. Come on, mommy, my daughter. Mommy, hurry up. Come on. Like, I have just got to wait for him. I put all my stuff in the bins for them to check them. And then I just grabbed everything up and ran barefoot to the plane. Put my shoes on the plane. Cause
the plane actually didn't leave probably until like a half an hour after it was scheduled to leave, because they were just chilling. And
so we said that we think that at that particular gate in that particular airport, because it's Dar Es Salaam, Tanzania, that flight crew and that particular routine flight is probably used to having to wait because of the whole customer service, the whole departure process. There was something every step of the way.
And the thing is, it was not packed. Mm-mm. The airport was not, it wasn't, because it's 3:55 in the morning. It's not like, JFK, Atlanta airport, something like that. It's not packed. It was, a good amount of people in there. But basically majority of the people were going on the same plane. Mm-hmm. When we got to the airport in line, it was probably about 20 people there in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so typically in the other airport, 20 people, that's nothing.
Because you have, and you'll have more than one person processing the line. They only have, it seemed like
no, they
one
had
person
2
for everything.
people. Remember when we first got in the line, there were 2 people. There was
A guy and a woman.
guy and a lady.
But I only saw the woman actually checking documents.
The guy was too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that podium, but it didn't seem like they were not moving them as efficiently through.
So
that
those
was
are
a huge dislike.
our 10 dislikes for Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Now we know the time that we spent for the dislikes is a whole lot longer than the time we spent for the likes. But that's all right. These, as my wife mentioned earlier, these are our 10 dislikes. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree with us. I know we're going to get some comments about, you know, some of the dislikes, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that Tanzania is a bad place, because to be honest,
we had some really good experiences.
we had really
there.
good experiences
The
there.
kids were talking about some memories today.
Yes, and you know, I was explaining to my wife, you know, overall, I think it was a good experience. It was a good experience. There were some challenges, some stuff. I mean, like I said, that departure process alone was just, I mean.
Oh, I thought of another dislike real quick. When we went to Zanzibar, the air conditioner did not work in our hotel room. It was a sauna. It was a sauna. It was so hot in there. And I was so thankful that our girls and my mother-in-law stayed in another room and their air conditioner worked fine, and they slept comfortably, and they were happy and excited, you know, to be on the island and staying in this hotel for a night, because we were staying in a condo. The residence was different in Dar es Salaam, but the hotel, it wasn't quite what we expected.
No,
I was thinking something. What
yeah.
I expected, I'll say, I was expecting something a little different. But at least for the air conditioner work, when it's so hot, I'm fine with heat, especially if I can crack a window or what have you. But it was extremely hot, and Cone he didn't seem to sleep comfortably. Our son stayed in the room with us, and he was bitten by something and got a rash. So that was a dislike. That was a little sad. But mommy travels with aloe vera and hydrocortisone cream. Worked that right out. It was gone in a couple of hours.
So those are our 10, 11, 12, 13 dislikes for Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Stay tuned for more stories, y'all.
Stay tuned for more stories. Let me tell you, you're going to get some stories. We got some videos. I'm still uploading videos. But stay along with us on this journey as we are documenting our Tanzania trip, as well as our journey to the motherland. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, like, and hit that notification button.
Ding.
So that you can be notified when we upload a new video.
Thank you for watching and bearing with us.
Yes, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.